You have to be careful. This is really important, probably the most important thing. It sounds crazy to say it, but there is a conspiracy working against you. I know how it sounds, but from the videos you watch to the social media that you engage with to what your local store sells, or whether you even have a local store to begin with, they're all impacted by this. I'm not talking about lizard people, Bigfoot, or whether the moon exists. I'm talking about the biggest conspiracy of all, the one that we all know about, but like to pretend isn't real. The fact that the Earth is flat. No, sorry, I mean Warhammer 40k. This month, I bet that you have heard about Warhammer 40k 10th edition over and over and over again. The result of this popularity means that you could be easily forgiven for thinking that Warhammer is the only miniature wargame that exists. After all, there can only be Warhammer in the so-called Warhammer hobby. This is a conspiracy, one that has been conceptualized in the Games Workshop marketing team, but it is perpetuated by almost everybody because it feels inevitable at this stage and impossible to break, and not everyone wants to even break it. I'm to blame here as well. I cover Warhammer a lot too. I have to feed into this conspiracy as a content creator if I want to retain my relevancy. But this must end. This has led to a very bitter, myopic hobby community. Games Workshop need competition. And if you have any issues with the way that Games Workshop have run things, and there's a lot to have an issue with, then you need to support that competition. And did you know that there are indeed a ton of other companies out there producing amazing miniatures in amazing worlds with amazing rule sets? Well, I learned about them and So I made a huge mistake. Yeah. This month, with the help of a very generous patron, I got to go to UKGE, the biggest gaming convention in the UK, because I wanted to see what new miniatures, what new wargames are coming out, what we ought to be getting excited about and looking forward to. Which is why I got this really, really big box. I got so much stuff that I had to get it shipped to me. I could not fit it all in my backpack. And while I've been playing the 10th edition of Warhammer 40k all this month, this box has been judging me. Judging and waiting to be opened. But today, it's finally over. We're gonna get this bad boy unboxed. Let's get started. This is Relic Blade. You'll notice that it is already opened. Yeah, I actually didn't have this shipped over. I brought this with me in my hand luggage. This is a super fun, really fast and furious skirmish wargame set in a kind of fantasy D&D-esque world. It's a beautiful little bridge from D&D over into the wargaming hobby proper. I got this from Exit 23. They very kindly let me have a review copy, and that's what I've been doing. I've been playing the hell out of it. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, I'm hoping to do a review for my patrons. These are actually some of the funnest miniatures I've painted in a really long time. I did a sort of Borderlands style on them, so you can see that they have a very animated aesthetic, and I wanted to do justice to that. Super quick and easy to paint as well. So huge thanks to Chris, who let me have a copy of Relic Blade. So you guys should check out Exit 23 Games. They do a lot of cool miniatures for Relic Blade, as well as Turbo Dork paints as well. And when it comes to Relic Blade, I cannot not talk about this guy. This is Captain Crab. Seriously, this guy is absolutely awesome. I love this miniature so much. He's got 2 war maces in his crabby little hands, and I will always be scuttling him sideways when I move him. I can't wait to paint this miniature. It's gonna look fantastic, I think. Loads and loads of vibrant colors. I love the lurkers from the deep set because you can get to paint them in very, very exciting aquatic-based colors that you just don't get to paint very often. It's a really interesting painting challenge that is a ton of fun. Which is why I got him too! Yeah, so I might have got the starter set as a review copy, but I did buy this for myself. Look, you can't present me with a Shark Knight and not expect me to buy that, okay? The Apostles of the Deep faction expansion set totally spoke to me. They were super easy to paint. I will say they are very expensive. It's a very boutique style of game. I just had to have the Crab Knight for reasons that are personal. Okay, so Gaslands. I need to talk to you about Gaslands. This is a game published by Osprey Games, created by Mike Hutchinson. I am a big fan of his podcast, Rules of Carnage. I think it's really, really cool. And I've never played Gaslands. This is very famous. You use Matchbox cars to play this game, which is kind of wild, very different. I actually bought this at the Sarissa Precision stand from Dave, who was absolutely lovely and gave me a secret YouTuber discount, so thank you for that. Oh, damn, I shouldn't have said it was secret. Shouldn't have said it was for YouTubers. Oh, it's too hot today. I look forward to trying this out. I might be talking about it in a future video. This sexy little number is called Xenos Rampant. Hello there, comment section. I finally answered your pleas. This is another game published by Osprey Games. Really interesting. It uses the Lions Rampant rules to create a sort of sci-fi game. I think it is a skirmish miniatures agnostic game, but I haven't really had a chance to look into it too much just yet. But a lot of people seem to be really hyped on it, so I really want to check it out, play a few games, and see if it's any good. Oh my god, this box. There's so much stuff in here. I also picked up these from David Sarissa Precision as well. These are used in Gaslands. Okay, here's a big one. You weren't there, man. Yes, that's right. It's the US Army for the Vietnam War. Now, Vietnam miniatures are really interesting. They're not something that traditionally has really excited me, although I am very much interested in the history of the Vietnam War. But no game has really caught my attention, until now. Rubicon Models are coming out with their very first miniature war game rule set, which is really exciting. Rubicon Miniatures create a ton of historical miniatures, and people use them for a lot of games like Bolt Action. So I'm really excited to see the miniature war game that they have coming out. It's called Oscar Mike, and I did play it, and it is very interesting. It has a ton of very bespoke mechanics. Probably one of the most interesting games I actually saw at UKGE. I'm really looking forward to this one and getting some games in with it, because not only are the miniatures really, really pretty and really, really affordable, but also it's super furious. Whenever you start combat, everyone shoots at one another all at once. It's a very interesting mix of you go, I go, as well as alternating activations. You spend command points in order to move your miniatures and shoot at one another. Very, very interesting. Would probably deserve an entire video in and of itself, so I'll talk about that probably in the future. But just remember, American GI, we are not your enemy is home. So big thanks to Rubicon Models who let me have these miniatures for review. Plus, they gave me this really cool mug. How about that? So Oscar Mike is probably my second most anticipated game from UKGE. There is one that I am looking forward to more, and that is Margaret. I'm really looking forward to Margaret. Surprisingly, I'm not the biggest fan of rank and flank games, and Margaret is a rank and flank game. This is being done by George over at Three Seals Studios. He is a fellow YouTuber, actually, and he's making his own game now, and it looks really interesting. It looks like he's learned a lot of lessons from games like A Song of Ice and Fire and Warhammer Fantasy, and it's very much inspired by 2000s era RTS games like Age of Empires. That's basically the time period of my life when I had the most energy, so I look back on it fondly. I'm a big fan of that style of RTS games, and all of the game mechanics around it are kind of designed to hook in to that nostalgia. You've got tech trees, you've got stats that resemble Age of Empires, you have distinctive factions as well. There's no orcs or elves or dwarves in this one. Instead, you have some very interesting, very specific cultures. They almost feel historical, but smashed together in a really interesting way. You've got Hellenistic Greeks bashing up against the Qing Chinese dynasty, against the Spanish conquistadors. They're fantasy counterparts, of course, but aesthetically, they really evoke those time periods, and it is super interesting to see it on a table. I played a demo game of it, and it was pretty fun. Okay, here we go. This is Pulp. This is a really interesting game. So, there are two levels to this game. The very first is 7TV. This is an overarching rule set designed to explore genres, mostly in 70s British television. You've got your British cop drama, your adventure stories, your weird horror movies. This specifically is a starter set for the pulp genre. That's the second layer. So this is the pulp starter set, and the entire conception of this game is that you are, in fact, the director of a show. And so the game rules are designed around making a very action-packed, exciting game. I'm really excited to actually play this. I've never played a game of this before, but I did get bamboozled by the sweet talking seller at the Pulp 7TV stand. What can I say? Crooked dice, they got me. And speaking of Pulp, we got this bad boy. This is Lurkers from the Deep. Firstly, can we please have more miniature war games being sold inside VHS packs? I would really love that. So this is what I was talking about when it came to Pulp. Because it's part of 7TV, it means that there are lots and lots and lots of different variants. This is a horror expansion, and this one is kind of like an Innsmouth sort of expansion. All about insane science, neurotic monsters, occult action. So it comes with an episode guide, pretty big book actually, on a bunch of cardstock. So there's no miniatures in here, but there are cards and stats and things like that so that you can play an actual episode of Lurkers from the Deep. I bet you know what this is. This is Kings of War. If you are excited for Warhammer Fantasy, I mean, why aren't you just playing Kings of War? I got to play my very first game of Kings of War at UKGE. I know it is a very much iconic game in the world, but I've never played it before. So I got my very first game in. I got a game in of what they call the ambushed game. This is essentially the equivalent of a Warhammer 40k Combat Patrol style game, except, you know, they did it first. Not a lot of miniatures needed by Kings of War standards or by an army game standard. Very, very quick and easy to get to the table. The Kings of War miniatures are super affordable as well. Mantic Games very graciously let me have a review copy of the Ogres Ambush set, as well as my favorite, the Night Stalker set. Ogres are ogres. You can get them anywhere. But can you get the Night Stalkers? Ooh! Night Stalkers are basically nightmarish monsters from, you know, your nightmares. And they look really interesting. I love the kind of Cthulhu-esque element to them, but also they're a little bit more whimsical. They have other miniatures that I'm a really big fan of, which are like Scarecrow Man. I think it looks really cool. The game of Kings of War, from what I played at UKGE, it plays extremely similarly to the classic traditional Warhammer Fantasy game. So if you are interested in Warhammer Fantasy, but maybe you're concerned about the price of the miniatures, Kings of War might be the game for you. And the newer miniatures are really cool, though the older ones are showing their age at this stage by now. This is a super affordable game. To give you a little bit of an idea, each of these starter sets costs £28. So for the price of a single model from Games Workshop, you can get one of these boxes. I think they're amazing value and definitely worth your time. I mean, what's stopping you? Maybe try an ambush box instead of a Space Marine Captain. Here it is. I finally have it. Those who have been following the channel for a while now will know all about this game. I've been desperately hunting for this. There it is. Yes, this is Aliens, another glorious day in the core. I have been desperately hunting for this game for years, but it has been out of print, and I found it at UKGE. The only problem is, I've heard it's not very good, but I really want it. I love the miniatures inside. I'm a huge fan of the Aliens franchise. I absolutely adore it. And hey, look at this. A cooperative survival game. That's what this course loves to see. I love co-op games. So I want to give it a shot for myself. It recently has started getting reprinted by GF9. So I'm very excited to get some games in of it and actually find out whether or not it is indeed, you know, a little bit not as good as one would hope. That's what I've heard, but I want to try it for myself. Find out, you know? And this might look like a board game, but it is more of a miniature war game, but with tiles. These miniatures are not made out of soft plastic. These are hard plastic miniatures. You can use plastic glue on these, I think. So awesome, really interesting. Plus, you know, aliens, they look way better than the pure string gene stealers. I'll probably use them in my gene stealer Cold Force. Ooh, and there is this little secret box. I got this from Exit 23 as well. So this was a gift, actually. And it has come with a lot of really cool miniatures. Ooh. Okay, it's gotten messy. All right, let's have a little look at them because they are loosey-goosey. These are really cool. I'm actually starting to really like metal miniatures, believe it or not. I used to hate metal miniatures. When I first started in wargaming, I detested the old Sisters of Battle metal miniatures. But now I'm starting to miss the heft of metal when I play with plastic miniatures. It's so weird. But yeah, this is really cool. These are essentially models for Blood Bowl. And they're really cool. They're really awesome. I really like them. These are Amazon stand-ins, I believe, but there's a lot of really cool. They've got a very punk aesthetic and vibe to them. Very interesting miniatures. You should check them out. I got into Blood Bowl in a really big way at the beginning of the year, and I'm really excited to maybe play some more games. There's so much stuff in this box. It's been hanging over me for so long. Oh, it's so nice to finally get it all unboxed. All right, well, what's up with this? Were you a 90s kid? Did you grow up with a PlayStation 1? Remember Hogs of War? Well, Warlord Games member, This is Hogs of War, the card game, based on the Hogs of War PlayStation 1 era games. Yeah, just interesting. I thought it was really interesting, so I picked it up. Okay, now here is a big one. I can finally cross this one off my bucket list. You've seen Nam, but have you seen Space Nam? This is the Space Nam miniatures from Wargames Atlantic, collaborating with Reptilian Overlords. Reptilian Overlords is a STL creator. He makes some very, very beautiful STLs, like really, really pretty ones. And they paired up with Wargames Atlantic to make this hard plastic sprue. You get 20 multi-plastic, hard plastic miniatures in here. And I gotta be honest, they look fantastic. I'm gonna be using these in my Imperial Guard force. Look at this. Look at the sprues, people. Look at how many sprues you get. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sprues? And how much does it cost? £24 at a discount, £30 RRP. That's 20 men in 5 sprues for £30. And the quality on this is super high. These miniatures are so well detailed. Do you ever find something and you're really interested in it, and then things just kind of spiral out of hand, and before you know it, you just have a massive box of miniatures? Yeah, that kind of happened to me. This is 0 to 100 hours. And the box has been torn apart in transit. Thanks a lot, Royal Mail. Funnily enough, you might not know this, I'm not the biggest fan of historicals. However, 0200 Hours kind of caught my attention because if you ever played the original Kill Team back in the 2000s, then you will know what this game is. One person is playing sentries, the other person is playing the kind of hero characters trying to achieve missions. If you've ever played the Commando games from the 2000s, then you'll know what I'm talking about. I was talked into buying these by Dave at Sarissa Precision. He really did a lot of work for the company out there at UKGE. What you get inside the starter set are a lot of sprues of plastic. You get some doggies. You got a lot of doggies, actually. Pretty cool starter set. I look forward to trying some games of that. And not only did I get the starter set, I also got this, the Partisan Resistance Cell. This really interests me. I'm always a big fan of kind of guerrilla forces, and so I think playing as some partisans going up against the Germans in World War II sounds like a really interesting and exciting experience. Apparently, it really does change the game. The expansion adds a lot. That's what I was assured anyway. That's why I picked it up. So I'm really excited to try that game out. I was a big fan of the original Kill Team. I love playing the sentries and getting gunned down by commandos. I don't know. I'm just a little bit of a masochist, I guess. I also splurged on an entire miniature line as well. These are Bad Squiddo Games miniatures. I absolutely adore this miniature range. Annie from Bad Squiddo Games is always a joy to chat with, and there's just a huge variety of miniatures. I do think that they have a particular style to them. If you're not like the biggest fan of the classic traditional hand sculpted miniatures, maybe you won't enjoy them as much, but I do think that they look fantastic, and I think that they're just a ton of fun to paint and play with. And isn't that ultimately what we want from our miniatures? I got these guys. They're probably gonna get used in an Necromunda game. Same with these. I'm probably gonna filter these into my Gene Stealer cultists. And then these were all just kind of for greed. And I picked up some Banshees for a super secret project that I'm not allowed to talk about. And of course, who doesn't love scarecrows? Come on, everybody loves scarecrows. Okay, this was just for me. I just bought this. This is just an Alien, the role-playing game DM screen because I wanted it and no one was there to tell me no. Speaking of which, this is the Colonial Marines expansion for the Alien RPG. I haven't played a game of it yet, but you know, really wanted this. This was a very Aliens-themed UKGE for me. And then, continuing my need to collect every single horror-based RPG in the world, this is Shiver. It's a new TTRPG, relatively new, and it's kind of all about playing in the genre of a horror movie. It looks very interesting. It does have bespoke dice, which sort of rubbed me the wrong way. I always love trying new RPGs so that I can be confirmed that GURPS is the only one you ever need. Let's talk about Hobgoblin. So this is by Mike Hutchinson. He also did Gaslands, and this game looks really, really interesting. This is one of the, it seems, many rank and flank games that are currently becoming very popular. It seems like we're entering the era of rank and flank games. Hobgoblin is all about playing as a kind of goblin army, and it's super curious. It is an I go, you go experience, but the game has been built from the ground up to support that, and what that means is that the game is super duper fast. And when you fight, fight, you kind of fight simultaneously. So I take my turn, then you take your turn, but whenever we actually meet in combat, you will get to do all of your attacks, and then my units don't die from those. They'll be able to attack back, and then, you know, you'll take away casualties. That means that you kind of get around a lot of the problems of alpha strikes and things. It's a very simple game, very quick to play. You basically just need a target number chart, and I think I accidentally have just leaked the entire game. Uh-oh. And okay, we've come to the end with a product that is last, but certainly not least. It's also the heaviest part. Ta-da! This is Star Wars Shatter. Jesus. Okay, so this is big. This is really, really big. This is a very, very hefty box, and you've likely heard about this. Shatterpoint has kind of exploded onto the scene. It's just come out this month. It is a skirmish game from Atomic Mass Games, published by Asmodee. And boy, what a game it is. Okay, so what to talk about here? This is a kind of animated series-based Star Wars game, so it's not really based on the original trilogy at all, which is a little bit of a pity, because I'm a big fan of the original trilogy, but there are probably going to be miniatures coming out. I know there is a Darth Vader coming out for the game, and there's some really interesting miniatures actually. There's a Padme miniature, but like Queen Amidala Padme, so whenever she's like, you know, the queen and running about the palace being shot at by droids, I don't know, I guess that is apparently a hero unit in this game. It's very rare that you see anybody but Darth Maul come out of episode 1 looking good. This is a really interesting game. I'm probably actually going to review this on the channel. I want to talk about this at length. There's a lot of content in here. You get 16 miniatures, you get a bunch of terrain, and then you get a bunch of range tools, which they're not new things. You made those up. You just made those, so I have to buy them. You also get a bunch of dice, and you get a bunch of cards and things like that. So I'm interested in trying out this game. I will say this much. If I didn't get a review copy, I'm not sure whether or not I would have picked this up. It is a very expensive box set. Very expensive. So yeah, I got this as a review copy. I got this for free. So thanks to Asmodee for letting me have a review copy there. Some of the things that interest me most about this game are the actual mechanics. This looks to be like a very fun game, a very fun skirmish game. I only got a couple of turns in for a demo game. However, there is like a kind of almost like a tech tree. When you make attacks, you follow these different trees and they do different amounts of damage depending on how many successes you got. There's just some really interesting stuff. It's alternating activations, but you're drawing from a deck of cards to see who actually gets activated, which is super curious. In the few rounds that I played, it was fun. It worked well. However, I'm very interested to see whether or not it works on an actual game basis. So yeah, probably gotta review this one on the channel. It is a really big game, and people actually seem interested in it. So hey, what are YouTube wargame content creators for anyway? Whilst at the Asmodee stands, I also got to try Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is a really big skirmish game, one of the biggest war games in the world. And yeah, it just has not been a game I've ever played. Sorry about that one. And I finally got a game in, and it was fine. It was pretty good. It was kind of fun being able to spend hero points in order to like throw cars at people and leap around and use your special abilities. It was pretty neat, and it seemed like all of the different Marvel characters have been properly kind of translated onto the board, but it seems very competent. And I'll say this about Atomic Mass Games. They're one of few companies out there putting a very tight rule sets together these days and putting them out there with miniatures. Price points kind of bother me a little bit, but yeah, expect to see more about Star Wars Shatterpoint in the future. But that wasn't everything. There was a ton of really cool games over at UKGE as well. There was a trench skirmish war game, which was really awesome. There was A Billion Suns with Mike Hutchinson, which I never really got the time to play. I actually missed a ton of games, which was super disappointing. Because I was trying to play as many games as possible, I was trying to get as many demo games as I possibly could. I think I missed like half of the convention. I just did not get to play a game of. There was not enough time. Next year, UKGE needs to be like a week long. A single weekend just is not enough time to play every single game there. I didn't get to buy any Moonstone there, which was a super disappointment. I never got to the stand. I just never had the time. I missed the Restless Kaiser because I was doing an interview, but it was really fun to meet everybody there, and it was really cool to meet viewers there as well. I said hello to a lot of people. That was really awesome, and it was super cool to meet other content creators too. I really love those conventions. I really do. That's it. It's finally over. This box has been hanging over me all of June. I've been so excited to get it open and talk about it, and it's like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders and off my carpet. But hey, is there any games that I have missed? Is there anything that you are excited about? Let me know in the comments below so I can check it out. And speaking to all of the vendors at UKGE was absolutely delightful. Everyone was absolutely lovely. So thanks to everybody that I got to chat with and got to hang out with. Thank you so much. But hey, not every games company is lovely and normal. Some of them are absolutely wild. If you want to see the biggest car crash in RPG history, check out this video here. And a huge thanks to Sonic Bread, Mistress Arby, Novani, and Travis Hunter. Thank you so much for your support, guys. And I want to give an extra special shout out to CryptoKev, who funded my trip to UKGE. Without his support, I would not have been able to get over to the convention at all. So thank you so much for your assistance with that, CryptoKev. Really appreciate it. And I'll catch y'all next time. Bye-bye.